Today we're talking about evidence from Egypt that the Hebrews were in Egypt prior to the biblical dating of the Exodus, 1446 BC. By the way, that would make them arriving at Jericho in 1406 BC. Joshua and Jericho, that whole story. But the Exodus began in 1446 BC, according to the biblical dating. And we're giving evidence from Egypt that they were actually there. This is a fantastic one. In fact, it's found right between the paws of the Sphinx itself. Remember the passage we've been working from? On that same night, this is Exodus 12:12, I will pass through Egypt and strike down every firstborn of both people and animals, and I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. Right between the paws of the Sphinx is a 10.5-foot stela, meaning a standing stone with writing on it. It's actually about 12 feet long, 12 feet high, I should say, 12 feet tall. It's called the Sphinx Dream Stela, and it tells of King Thutmose IV on a hunting trip, then resting by the Sphinx and having a vision or a dream. And it essentially said if he cleared the sand away from the Sphinx, the throne would be his. Okay, what does this have to do with anything? Well, scholars believe that this is a fabricated pretense to the throne. It suggests that he didn't have a natural claim to the throne. Well, who is Thutmose IV? Thutmose IV is the son of the Pharaoh of the Exodus, Amenhotep II. Amenhotep II's firstborn son vanishes from history. And his next son turns out to be the Pharaoh because this guy's brother, his older brother's gone. And he calls himself Thutmose IV, after, I believe, his grandfather, Thutmose III, who is the guy who reigned 54 years. Well, why is he claiming that he had a dream and this dream gives him the throne? Well, as Titus Kennedy puts it, he says this in his book, 101 Archaeological Discoveries. The Sphinx Dream Stela was found between the paws of the Great Sphinx, and when the hieroglyphs were translated, it was found to be a personal yet official text of Pharaoh Thutmose IV, who reigned in the 15th century BC and was the son of Pharaoh Amenhotep II. It's an illustrative scene that appears at the top of the stela. It shows Thutmose IV making an offering to the Great Sphinx. And below, the stone inscription claims that while Thutmose IV was hunting one day, he rested near the Sphinx, fell asleep, had a dream in which the god of the Sphinx delivered a divine message to him. Allegedly, Thutmose IV was told that if he cleared the sand from around the Sphinx, he would be the Pharaoh. He's essentially getting justification for being the Pharaoh because he did not have a legitimate claim to the throne. His older brother did, but somehow his older brother is gone. What does this suggest? His older brother was killed in the 10th plague. And so now he has to put up this big 12-foot high stela saying that he really is the true Pharaoh. Why would he have to do this if he had an inherited right to the throne? He wouldn't have to do it. That's what many scholars are saying. This, for me, is fascinating.
I'm sorry that was so long, but I had to let him get to that final part. You know what is even more fascinating? The lengths that people who believe in this Bible will go to steal someone else's history and stretch their history to try to fit into their Bible. So let's see if I can clear this stuff up for you guys. Let's see how, let me rephrase that, rewind that. Let me clear this up for you guys. And I won't go into a whole bunch of bullshit in order to do so like that gentleman did. Now, this gentleman is a believer in the Ron Wyatt version of Christianity of the Old Testament. Here's the facts. Some scholars place the time frame of the Exodus in and around the time frame by which he said around the 15th century, in the 1400s. Some, even like Sigmund Freud, try to say that Akhenaten was actually Moses, which that has been disproven over and over that he is not, simply because Akhenaten's mother hid him from Pharaoh, Thutmose Amenhotep II, hid him from him, and then after he had died, Thutmose Amenhotep II, Amenhotep IV, who becomes Akhenaten, was brought back. Now he's claiming that he doesn't have access to the throne. We'll get to that in a minute. But he's already the son of Amenhotep II, so obviously there is a pathway to the throne. But the other time frame that is argued by scholars, not this gentleman, is around 1250. And the reason why around 1250 BCE it is argued that, because the Bible itself also claims that it was the slaves, the Hebrew slaves, that built the city Pi-Ramses. And we know that the city of Pi-Ramses did not come into existence until Ramses II. So that would put it around 1250 BCE. So there is a 200-year gap of time as far as when this thing happened. Now, the story is further invalidated by the fact that in the 1500 BCE, the walls of Jericho were torn down for some reason that we do not know, and that the walls of Jericho were never rebuilt until around 1000 or 900 BCE. So Joshua going across, whether it's the 1400s or if it's 1200, would not have come upon a Jericho that actually had walls. We covered this in our live yesterday on YouTube and Facebook on What's Wrong with the Bible in Joshua 5 and 6. But those walls would not have been there. Archaeology has proven no walls 1500s up until around 900 BCE. Joshua could not have blown trumpets to blow down a wall, so it wouldn't matter about this story now. If they've stolen the history of Jericho's walls being down and then wrote their own narrative as such, is it impossible that when they saw that Amenhotep II had a son named Amenhotep III, and mind you, during this time frame, the Levant, where the Canaanites who would become the Israelites were in existence, they were a vassal state to the Egyptians. So in the 1400s, the 1300s, the 1200s, they were a vassal state to the Egyptians. So they would have known who was the Pharaoh. So they would have known Amenhotep II. They would have known Amenhotep III died mysteriously. Now, is that something that never happens? Of course not. We know that King Charles of Spain, King Charles I of Spain, was not the eldest brother. His other brother, Frederick, died, and he became king. According to your own Bible, Solomon had several older brothers. One of his older brothers from his mother, Bathsheba, that son died because God was punishing David. So is it implausible? Is it impossible for a younger to become the king? King John became king after Edward the Lionheart. It happens. Alfred the Great, so-called great, became king after his older brother died. These things have happened in history multiple times where someone gains the throne because the older one died. Now he says that Akhenaten or Amenhotep IV did not have a claim to the throne, but yet he did. Now one of the problems is that he wasn't I don't believe, I have to check, but he wasn't from the primary wife of Amenhotep II, and therein was the problem with his lineage. But he still was the rightful heir to the throne once Amenhotep III died. In these royal things, people can make petitions for having some other child to become the king or the queen. But he did have a line to the throne. So that's a utter bullshit. And trying to cast the death to make it seem like the 10 plagues happened. If that was the case, where are the other writings in the Egyptian story about the cows dying, the blood, water turning to blood, the flies, the disease, the plague that swept through? Where is all of that? They only wrote about the one thing. And where's all the other children dying? It's not there. You have make-believe. One day you'll wake up. And always remember, You have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey. Good.